We was riding along in the car one day, that first day, and Brother Branham was driving, and I was reading him the manuscript of the church age book. And when we got through with the first chapter of it, well, he told me, he said, well, let's let that rest a while. And he looked over at me and he said, Brother Green, do you know any jokes? Now, that's the prophet of God talking to me. Well, I'm from Texas and I'm full of them. He could tell that I hesitated to say yes, but I sure wasn't going to say no, because I'd have been lying to him. And I said, yes, sir, I do. About that time, a car flashed by us, and he said, you see that car going down the road? And I said, yes, sir. He said, we need to pray for them. They're going to need help. He said, Brother Green, he said, I don't go up here and go in the wilderness just to sleep in the cold and be uncomfortable, sleep on the ground and eat food. He said, I go for the fellowship, but he said, I want to get out there. I have to get away from all spirits. And out in the wilderness where there's never been anybody smoke or drink or commit adultery, that's the only place I can have any peace in my heart. He said, and I'd like to get out of this. Now he said, tell me a joke. Now what are you going to do when a prophet of God asks you to tell him a joke? Well, I'm going to tell you a couple. So don't you know just what I did with him, because it means something. Everything Brother Branham ever said to me, even if it was a joke, has a spiritual lesson in it. So I figured I'd tell him one about a guy sleeping in church. Figured that'd be nice. I told Brother Branham this guy went to sleep in church all the time, and it embarrassed his wife, it embarrassed the pastor, and so the pastor decided he'd embarrass him. So one service, the pastor let the guy go fully sound asleep. And the pastor very calmly said, everybody going to heaven, raise your hand. Everybody raised their hand but the guy that was asleep. And then the pastor said, now everybody that's going to go to hell, stand up! Well, this woke the guy up and he jumped to his feet. He looks around and he says, Pastor, I have absolutely no idea what we're voting on, but you and I are the only two guys in favor of it. And Brother Branham reacted just like you did. He beat his hand on the steering wheel. He laughed, oh, Brother Green. He said, that reminds me of one. And I guess he told me his favorite because I heard him tell it many times. He said there was this man went to sleep in church and said they really didn't mind him sleeping because it's a Methodist church. Except the man snored. And said he'd go to sleep and he'd start snoring, and said his wife would punch him and he'd wake everybody else up. So it was a real problem. So one day the man was at home and he was asleep, and Brother Branham sat on the Chesterfield. To me it's a sofa or a couch. Brother Branham said Chesterfield. And he said his wife Molly was in the kitchen fixing some Lindbergh cheese. And if you don't know what that is, it's got a nice sharp aroma to it. And as the aroma that went through the house, he called out through that, Molly, put that stinking cheese up. A man can't even take a nap while that's around. That gave her an idea. She sliced a little piece of it off, wrapped it up real tight, dropped it in her purse. And next Sunday morning when he went to sleep, she just got her little purse out and she opened that cheese and she waves it over underneath her husband's nose. And he's asleep and he says, Molly, get your stinking feet off of my pillar. Now, you children will remember those, won't you? And I want you to know they're all right to tell them because the prophet of God told me that one.